Welcome to Dr. Teach Me to Parent. Good to have you with us again today as we pick up our conversation today on part 2 of leadership development in the home. Dr. Rich Kriegbaum is with us today, and he's going to give us some of his insights and his experience as a leader in many different arenas of his life, but particularly as it now relates to parenting and relates to helping our kids become leaders in the home, in the school, and obviously as they mature and grow and in the community in which they live. We want kids to learn to be leaders. And to put this in perspective, let me give you a little quote for today. And it's got a powerful message in back of it, and Rich, you may want to comment about it as well. A good leader inspires others with confidence in himself. That's what a good leader wants. You want to have confidence in him. However, a great leader inspires them with confidence in themselves. You see, now that's the choice of a leader. You're going to have people have confidence in you, or you're going to teach confidence in themselves as they lead, they move outward. Any comment on that?
No, that's exactly right. And like so many things, there's a good thing. Inspiring confidence.
That's right.
But it's always got to be balanced off if there's going to be wisdom in the whole operation. So, yes.
Yeah. But you really want kids to develop leadership, but you want to have that confidence in themselves. You want to develop their own personal identity. And they can look at themselves as, I am a leader, or I am becoming a leader, or I can be a leader.
I like that last one especially. I can lead
Yeah.
when I need to lead. What we don't want in building that confidence or that is to have a need to lead.
There you are.
That can get pretty uncomfortable and unhealthy.
There you are.
Someone who needs to lead all the time, Alan, you've seen those people.
That's selfishness. Because now you're leading for your own personal gain and for your own personal benefit. That's
right.
That's
But to be confident that you can see your way through and you can help other people get where they need to be.
Yeah.
That's good leadership.
Say, you wrote a book.
Yes, I did.
Leadership Prayers. A great book. I don't know if you picked it up from our last time together. We introduced the book, and I encourage you to pick it up at Amazon or one of your bookstores. But Leadership Prayers, and Dr. Kriegbaum is the author, and I went through it over the last couple of weeks.
Good.
I've read many of the prayers in the morning. I just kind of read them, and you could just see yourself thinking as you met with different leaders and you met different situations you had to face as a leader, and as you told the story. It was very interesting. I found it to be very motivational.
Good.
And very encouraging, actually.
Good.
Say, one of the things you said last time we were together in part 1 of this series was the idea that to be a leader, you have to learn how to follow. That's the first step. If parents are going to teach their kids to be leaders, they got to learn to follow. So then that means the parent has to be the leader. So because the kid has to follow somebody, or you have to find somebody, a grandparent perhaps, or a teacher, or an aunt, an uncle, or whatever, as the leader, but then you teach your kids how to follow. How do you do that? How do you teach your kid to follow somebody? By saying, watch this guy. Do what he does. Follow him.
Yes. Modeling is an important part of how parents do this.
Imitation and modeling, that's what it is, yeah. I remember my father one time telling me about a guy that was in the national scene. I was in high school at the time, and it didn't mean a lot to me. But he says, you watch this guy. You keep your eye on this guy, because he's going to be a national leader, and he's going to go places. And that's what happened. Today I have become friends with this particular person, and I've seen him, and I've followed his ideas and his model. I read his books. But that started when my dad just pointed his finger at this guy and said, he was in the news one day. He says, watch him. He's going to be the leader. And I think that was very profound.
That is one important way we learn. Leadership is also something you can watch it, you can study it.
Yes, oh
There's
yes, yeah.
There's
Lots of books.
enormous literature on leadership.
Yeah.
Hundreds of thousands of things on leadership. But in the end, it's sort of like studying something as being different from learning how to do something.
That's right.
To actually learn to lead, you have to first learn how to follow. That is, how to select a leader. Your parents showed you somebody
That's right. I
to
didn't
look
select,
at.
Yeah, but it became true.
And so you learn that way. But ultimately, you have to have leadership experiences, and parents can construct those leadership experiences for their children.
That's right. That's right.
And good teachers do that at school and at church. You'll see healthy churches. They create opportunities for people to learn to lead.
See, I think that's an important issue there because it's knowing who to follow. You know, followership is important. You got to learn how to follow a leader, but it's knowing who to follow. And there are leaders that are very worthwhile, following. There are some just kind of watch and maybe learn a few things from, but not particularly to follow them. So there's a different level of leadership, it seems to me, that you'd want your kids to identify with and, kind of separate out or sift out.
Yeah, the first real task of following is to decide whom to follow.
There you are. Yeah.
It's learning wisdom to select who should be followed. In politics all over the world, that is what voters are trying to figure out.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Who can I follow?
And the tough spot is I can follow somebody today.
Yes.
But will that be a person that I will want to follow and need to follow 5 years from now?
Yes.
10 years from now?
Yes.
Whatever that might be.
And that means that when you are picking someone to follow, you're not just looking for the benefits that you will get right now from that. Mm-hmm. You're looking for a person. They talk often in leadership about competence and character.
Okay. Yeah.
And to be a good follower, you need to be wise about both of those.
That's right. You got to have the skills.
Can this
That's
person
competence.
do this?
That's right.
And can I trust this person's character?
That's more basic.
Those two.
That's basic. You want
Fail
somebody
on
you can
either
believe
one
in,
of
you
those?
can trust, and who follows through and does what he says.
Yes.
Is honorable. Is an example of honesty, an example of trustworthiness. Right. I mean, that's character, the integrity, the honesty of it all.
My working definition of integrity is being who you let people believe you are.
Good point. Say that again.
Integrity, which is different from honesty, which is telling the truth.
That's right.
You can tell the truth, but maybe not the whole truth. It's still true. You told the truth.
That's right.
Integrity is something that a person can trust because you will be what you claim to be. Mm-hmm. In fact, you will be what you let them believe you are.
There's a match.
So that they can trust you.
Yeah, you're not saying one thing and doing something
That's
different.
exactly right. They can trust you.
They put it together. You don't put it together. They put it together. Your words and your actions, your words and your personhood matches up.
The military has been working at leadership and followership, I think, certainly the American military, for a very, very long time. They understood this early.
Yes.
I think that why they emphasize followership so much in a hierarchical thing like the military is that they know that leaders depend on followers, especially in life and death situations.
Oh, yes.
You are all a team.
Yeah. Then you become one. Yeah, that's
and
right.
all the followers have to do to make a leader fail is just pull back. Mm-hmm. Not tell the person what they know that leader needs to know.
That's right.
That's why learning followership is not a passive thing. Followership is a very engaged and active part
Well, it's purposeful.
of leading and following.
I'm learning to be a leader, and these are the steps I go through, or this is the process that I'm part of. You start out in a following role.
And you're willing to help the leader succeed. That's so counterproductive.
And that's what a parent
Alan.
has to get in their mind.
Yes.
The parent has to kind of be that leader, teach that idea of following, and then reward it and praise it and encourage it and then develop it.
Yes.
And then at some point where you can pass on responsibilities to the follower, who now becomes the mini leader or the junior leader, if you will, and then up the chain we go. Yeah. So you said something last time also about your dad having a critical incident in his life and with you that helped you turn the corner a little bit and become a leader.
Yeah.
It eventually led to your leadership ability. But, it may not necessarily be a dad. It could be a grandpa. It could be a mother.
Yes.
It could be an uncle. It could be a teacher. It could be a friend. But there seems to me that critical person that appears in your life at some critical point,
Yes.
and does some critical act of some type and teaches you to get on board and start thinking leadership ideas and leadership potential.
Yeah.
Now, for you, it was your dad, but have there been others as well?
Yes. And not unusual. A couple of the others were athletic coaches.
I see. Okay, well.
That's a very common area.
Very common, that's right.
In which this leading and following thing and the trust, learning to trust, and seeing an example of leadership. Good coaches are very strong, but they're also very good at developing the people that they're working with. Ultimately, really good leadership or leadership coaching nowadays, those have come together almost in a calling kind of thing. Is to really, back to what you said at the beginning, you are trying to develop your followers. You want them, and the followers trust the leader enough that they're trying to help the leader succeed. Now, we live in what I call a leader-centric culture. Okay. Leadership is there's 100,000 books about leadership, and there's maybe 35 or 40 about following. Because followership is about helping someone else succeed, and our culture tends to reject that.
When I think of followership, I'm mentioning your point on this one. Reading biographies. There are a lot of leaders in history, and there are a lot of biographies written about them, obviously, books written about them. And when you read a biography, you read about leadership. Whether you're reading about the story of John Rockefeller, or you're reading a story about Forbes, or you're reading a story about any of our presidents or whomever, have you made that part of your leadership development, is to kind of just read, not necessarily books, but stories and maybe articles and so on that have told about critical leaders and characteristics and some of their personality and some of their lifestyle?
And interestingly, the Bible is full of such stories.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Full of successful and failed leadership and successful and failed followership. And especially in the Old Testament, the people of Israel, they were the ones that had to approve who was going to be their king. And they didn't get it right very often, Alan.
That's often true.
And so they suffered with bad leaders often. So those lessons, those patterns run all through life. At work, at play, at home, at church, at school. This interaction of wise followers. Knowing how to decide who should lead at a certain time. I mentioned the military. I had a retired colonel once, Alan, tell me a very fascinating story. He had heard me give a talk about some of these concepts, and he came up afterward and he said, in the military, we understand what you were just talking about. In fact, he said, we train people for it. And he described a training experience which I think churches, schools, and even families can find versions of. He said we would have a day when platoons were all taken out into the field. And we each were given a set of objectives we had to achieve, and they had to be in order. You do this one, and there
then
you will
on-
find out what the next one is, and so forth. But those were set up so that no one person in that platoon knew it enough to lead them the whole way.
The whole way.
So
They depend on each other, learn from each
every
other.
time
Yeah.
they figured out what the objective was, they had to have a quick conversation. The successful teams had a quick conversation.
To go to the next.
Okay, who's the right leader for this next one?
For the next one, yeah.
And then they would all go to work to support that person. The teams that lost that day picked one person, and that person tried to lead them the whole
The
way.
whole way. Ah, good point. Good point.
I thought
There are leaders for
no.
particular reasons or
Yes.
times in life or
And that's
purposes.
right.
That's right.
And the followers have to be wise enough to know who should I follow now.
Yeah. So if you think of mom and dad, you think, okay, here's the time when little sister can do this task, and
Yes.
brother can do this one, and,
Yes.
and I can do that one, and as a family together.
And we're going to follow.
So you're not just passing it on to the oldest kid.
Right. No.
Or on to
that's
the
right.
boy.
That's exactly right.
Everybody plays a role, but that role has to be in their capability level so
Yes.
they succeed. Very interesting idea.
Yeah.
For a
and,
parent,
and
for a
that
family.
goes back to the
Yeah.
confidence, Alan.
Yeah.
If when you succeed, you gain confidence.
There you are. There you are. You know, one of the things you said also was the idea that you associated your life with other people who were leaders.
Yeah.
You surrounded yourself with other people who were leaders, not necessarily so that they could take over necessarily, but just so that you had fellowship, you had camaraderie, and you had learning experiences, and you had friendship, and you had support and encouragement. Leaders need that, right?
Yes. Yes.
It's a lonely world to be leaders, to be a leader, but you don't have to be. You can be part of a system of support.
Yes. That's correct. And that's an intentional process.
Well,
It doesn't happen by accident.
oh no, you have to go out and find. I mean, people don't come to you and say, "Let me be one of your support people." You have to reach out.
Sometimes I have had people.
Have you?
I have had people come and say, and that is a moment in followership that's pretty powerful. When people come to you and say, "I really believe that you are the person who should do this, and I'm offering myself to support you and help you in any way I can."
Which is what a parent does to a child,
Yes.
and what a husband does to a wife, and wife does to
Yes.
down the line. I mean, we do that in a context of family. We
Yes.
hopefully, anyway, work together as a team, but support each other, and whatever the task is.
Think about families where either the mother or the father has to lead all the time.
Oh,
It's terrible,
that's a tough
Alan.
one. Well, you think of the single mother. You know, the
Single mothers,
I mean,
single parent of any
single
kind.
parent of any
has
kind, yeah,
They have
yeah.
a very great challenge because a husband-wife team can demonstrate leading and following by switching off between each other.
They are. Mhm.
And the children can see that.
That's right.
Okay, now mom's in charge. Okay, and dad says, okay, we're going to let's make sure that we support her and we help her succeed at this because mom's the right person to do this. And then it'll reverse.
Yeah.
And it can be a child, as you said.
Yeah.
They can say, okay, now today, for this moment right now, little Susie's going to be the one, and we're going to help Susie succeed. She's our leader. Oh my goodness, does that build leadership and
There you are.
followership strength?
That's exactly what we're talking about.
Woo!
And the single mother can do that
Can
with
do
the
that.
kids. She can do that with the kids. I mean, the single father can do that with the kids. There are times when he leads, she leads, or you turn it over to a child. I mean, you don't have the other mate, so you have it.
Right.
And then you draw upon other people, like grandparents, and you draw upon friends.
Yes.
And
When those are-
they can become part of the process of accomplishing
Absolutely.
some task or.
Grandparents and adopted in grandparents
Yes,
and uncles.
also.
The adopted uncle or aunt. Those
Yeah.
people can be especially important. And those of us who have single parent friends need to be aware that there's a role that we can play there. We can't force ourselves in.
Yeah.
But if we're invited, if we offer and we're invited, there's a role that we can play. The other thing, you're reminding me about our table talk as a family.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
When
Yeah.
my parents both, because they both worked, my mom was a teacher, And they would talk about experiences at work that were leading and following experiences.
Oh, yes.
And we would hear those
You
stories.
hear the story on that, yeah.
And they would help us
So you
understand
begin
how
to
they dealt
think-
with
you
that.
begin to think that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the table time is a very important time.
It's very important.
I mean, it's a conference table.
Yes.
I mean, if you can think of it as a dining table, kitchen table, but it really becomes a conference table where learning takes place and where excitement can be generated and plans can be made and successes can be celebrated.
Right.
And failures
Exactly.
can be cried upon.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Say, one other thing that you said last time, which I thought was important, is that in leadership, you have to start with small tasks.
Yeah.
You got to start with a small thing. You know, leadership isn't something you just come into. It's something that you grow into, and you grow into it by small tasks. You were saying. I mean, it was kind of the
Yes.
concept that
Yes.
very important. We have to give kids a small bit of opportunity, you know, to lead, a small experience to
Right.
have, and then from there you build on that. You got to think about it. It's intentional. It's planned.
Yes. We want
You have
to.
to think ahead.
What we can do as the adult in a child's life, parent or whatever situation, but just say a parent, we can help the child see the reality of a situation and see
Okay.
how they could fit in.
Okay. Okay.
They can't
okay.
always see
Okay.
it.
Yeah, here's what you could do, or here's a role you could
Look
play.
at that. Do you think that you know how to do that, don't you? Oh, sure, I know how to do that. Well, that would help them if you would go show them how to do that. And then the parent goes over and says, Billy here might be able to help you get that figured out and get that done in time. Would you be willing to do that? They move Billy into that role.
And
The
before you know
others
it-
agree to follow,
Before you know it, you got a process.
and you have a
You
process,
got a
and he
leadership-
learned how to
You
lead.
got a leadership process going on in your home.
But what you
But
don't
parents got to
want,
think that way. They got to believe that way.
That's
they have
right.
to kind of work that way. You can't do everything yourself. Shouldn't do everything by yourself, even if you could. You
Right.
should not. You should always share, not just the joy, but the responsibility or the leadership opportunities.
well, we mentioned confidence. Overconfidence is
Over-
also not good.
That's not good either. Are leaders born? Are leaders acquired? Are leaders something that's learned? It grows. It emerges.
It's all learned.
All learned.
It's all learned.
All learned.
I've never seen any research. I don't know anything from my experience that contradicts that. It is learned, and that's why the
Well, then
parents
there's hope. And then there's
the
opportunity.
parents' role is so
Yeah,
important.
just to be the teacher.
And
Yeah.
a really good leader has enough confidence to know when they should follow.
Well,
Unhealthy people have to
yeah,
lead all the time.
That's true. That's true.
But a
That's true.
really healthy, wise leader knows when it's time to delegate.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as the board at the university came to me after I was made president there the first time, they came and said, okay, now you are the leader. We have one question. What can we do to help you succeed?
There you are.
That's the
key.
follower's
That's-
powerful question.
That's right. That's very, very.
What can we do to help you succeed?
That's right.
And learning to do both sides of that,
And everybody wins from that.
absolutely.
I mean, you think of a kid helping mother succeed. We all win. You know, if we don't let mother succeed, then everybody loses.
Yes.
Or if we help dad succeed, we
Yes.
all win. I mean, it's
Yes.
a win-win situation when you can get that idea that what you can do to help.
That's right. And what's good, a healthy family lives in ways and functions in ways that are good for everyone involved. You don't want to single out someone and say, well, this child over here looks like that's the leader. I'm going to pour myself into that person.
There you are.
Unhealthy.
Unhealthy. Yeah.
The family
That's right.
all has to be helping each other all the time, just like a good organization.
You know, there's this thought, Rich, that there are certain people who are born leaders almost. They're natural leaders. You were born to be a leader, we say. It's kind of like a personality factor, that if you have a certain personality, that means you're going to be a leader. Is that true? Is leadership really a personality factor?
I don't think that I know leaders that would probably fit every Myers-Briggs type that there is.
Every personality
And they
combination.
lead.
Yeah.
But they're not leading because of their personality type, if it's healthy. They're leading out of their personality type.
Ah, good
You
point.
lead a certain
Yes,
way
Yes.
because
Yes.
of who you became.
Mhm.
My underlying maybe overly simplistic, but my view of growing up is that life is way too big for every child. Every child is small compared with what they're facing in
What
life.
they have to deal
And
with. Yeah.
every one of us figures out a way to survive through that.
Yes.
And that begins to shape our personality.
Mm-hmm.
You and I both know people who, in a crisis, resort to humor.
Mm-hmm.
They learned that
That's right.
as children,
That's
didn't
right.
they?
That's it.
That
Mhm.
was their technique.
That's right.
Others,
Not a healthy one particularly, because it doesn't help solve.
no, it does
gets you through
produce
the
a lot of
situation,
laughter
but
for
that's
everybody.
for the moment.
For the moment.
But it isn't a problem-solving approach.
But,
That's right.
But I think, for example, just to take the broad differential, my wife constantly has to remind me that she's an introvert.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't have to remind me that I'm an extrovert. But Peggy has a lot of leadership responsibilities that she plays and fills out of an introverted personality.
Mm-hmm.
So she solves problems very differently
I'm
than
just saying,
I
in a
would
different
solve that
way.
problem.
You still are a problem solver.
Yeah.
You still are a decision maker.
Yes.
But you just do them differently.
She runs a big operation at the university.
Yeah, an introvert kind of has to have their time to get information, and they have to have time of
Exactly.
being alone and thinking it through and then making a decision.
Yes.
The extrovert gets out there and gets in among all the ideas out there and then makes a decision.
Well, Alan,
when the action is taking
aren't
place.
a lot of pastors introverts?
Oh, they are.
A lot of church
they are.
church pastors?
They are.
But they're leading
Yeah,
out of that introverted personality.
that's right.
So personality is the set of ways you've learned to deal with the world, and you bring those to your leadership
That's right.
or your followership,
That's right.
whichever one it is.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but you do have to kind of look at the kind of person you are,
Yes,
because you can't be the person you're not.
yes, that's right.
And so there's a certain degree of maybe personality doesn't make you a leader, but a personality factor shows you kind of how you lead a little bit, shapes your leadership style, let's say.
Yes,
And maybe you engage with other people, but then you have to have that time to think it through and just to isolate. And
That's right.
Kinda, bring it to your own mind and work it through, and then come back with a decision, which is a slower process, but it may be a better one. So introverts can lead.
yeah. It's just
You don't have to be an extrovert.
It's a way of doing it. No, and all of the other variables also, and that's again something that is learned best in
Yes.
childhood in the home.
Mm-hmm.
You learn to see each of us is different. We
Yes,
have different
yes,
ways
yes.
of dealing with things, and we learn. So parents have an obligation not to let that naturally loud, aggressive child
Yeah.
dominate all the time.
Yeah.
That child needs to learn how to be quiet and listen and learn.
Mm-hmm.
There's a quiet one over here who needs encouragement to stand up because you actually do know the right answer here. So say it.
Yeah. It's that story there about the idea that there are people who are very passive and don't say very much. And of course, their leadership potential is minimal. It's there, but it's minimal. Then you have the aggressive person at the other end
Yes.
who becomes violent and outspoken, and the leadership potential is there, but it's often lost.
Or they may
And all
become a
the-
bully, Alan.
And the bully and all the violent kind of behavior that goes
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah.
Then there's that in-between group of people who are assertive and who speak up and who make comments and who let other people speak and who take ideas and integrate them and work with it and make decisions but are doing it in an assertive way. They're outspoken, but they don't dominate. They don't take over.
Right.
And they don't hide amidst the crowd either.
Yes.
But they're there, but their words, their voice is heard. It isn't
Yes.
overpowering of other people. I mean, that's kind of where we are today. And I think
Yes.
in a lot of different situations, we want to teach our kids to be assertive. We want them to speak. We want them to represent themselves. We want them to let the other people know what they think and what they feel like and what they want.
Yes.
But the passive kid doesn't say anything. So he doesn't have any impact and he doesn't get very much in life.
And we lose, then we as a family or as a church or as an organization or as a community, we lose what that person could have contributed.
Could have contributed. But because they didn't speak, their
Right.
ideas could have been very valid, in other words.
Yes.
But because they don't speak, they're afraid, they're embarrassed, or, whatever.
And then the larger search for wisdom, the corporate wisdom,
Yeah.
is diminished.
Well, it's lopsided.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't
That's
get
right.
that. You don't get that point of view.
That's right.
Yeah, but you get the point of view of the person who is willing to be a bully, who's willing to yell and shout and scream, and
And call people names and
Yeah.
all the other things.
you
they
hear
do.
that point of view.
Yes.
And there may be some validness to that point of view too, but you don't listen to it. You don't take it in because it's so abusive, as compared to the kid who doesn't say anything at all, which may have some value there, but you don't hear it, so you don't consider it. So the person in the middle really is the one that wins the game. He speaks up and he represents points of view, and he does it in a manner that people will listen, people will cooperate, people will coordinate, people will work together.
The one who can lead when they should be leading, and who can follow and support and help others when that's what they should be doing.
There you are.
They know the roles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Let's take a break. This has been good. Rich wrote the book, Leadership Prayers, and I think you should get a copy of that. And it'll be a great book for you in teaching your family the issues of leadership and the concepts of leadership. So you've given us a good model there and a good example and a good place to kind of learn some leadership skills as well. But when we come back, I want to develop this idea a little bit more about the key events that kind of bring about leaders. Leadership requires events to take place. You have to have opportunity. You have to have chance. You have to have that moment of time when you either back off and you don't become a leader at all, or you move forward and you show leadership skill. That kind of key event. I want you to comment about that when we come back. So get a cup of coffee and we'll be with you in a couple minutes.
When I set foot on the campus to come visit it, I was struck by how open and how welcoming the students and the professors were. Coming to Gordon was like coming home.
I think intentional community is what Jesus modeled with his disciples, and Gordon has really fostered a good place for intentional community to happen.
Gordon is a place where you can meet people from all over the world and hear their stories. I meet a lot of different people who are shaping who I am today.
Gordon seeks to graduate men and women of character and of leadership, and the world is the place where Gordon students belong.
Choosing to go to Gordon was, I think, one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Expect to be changed.
Today, we bring you the first part of our global broadcast exclusive conversation.
The streets of Tahrir have once again been filled.
Key issues here at the United Nations Climate Change Conference remain unresolved.
Police are saying the protesters to move further and further away.
I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Juan Gonzalez.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!
The Green Gables Care Home is a 24-hour assisted living facility for the elderly located in Clovis, California, offering spacious private and semi-private rooms which are wheelchair approved, catering to the special person in your life who needs attention and wants to live in a loving home environment. The Green Gables Care Home has assisted living in secured homes for elderly with Alzheimer's, memory loss, and for your loved ones needing assistance with their activities of daily living. Call 559-297-9438 and visit greengablescarehome.com.
Sometimes good intentions hurt rather than help. For just $1.76 per meal, the Fresno Rescue Mission offers more than food. We offer hope. Please donate today.
Do you need a locksmith? Layman's Lock and Safe Service and Repair is available for you. 559-228-1805.
Gained a lot, learned a lot, and got a lot of love. If it weren't for the knowledge that I had gained from the classes at PCC, I probably wouldn't be the mom I am today. See, there it goes.
I would love you to meet my son, Aaron. My situation was very difficult. I didn't know how my life was going to turn out.
We graduated in June 2010 and we got married in July. And through family, the Pregnancy Care Center changed our lives.
The Pregnancy Care Center was a huge, vital part in helping me walk through that pregnancy, in educating me and loving on me during that time.
Choosing a Medicare plan can be difficult and frustrating. Susan Hatch can guide you through the Medicare maze and help find the right plan for you. Susan helps people understand the confusing and drastic changes that occur every year in Medicare. Susan will only recommend plans that will protect your assets and allow you to continue to see your personal doctor. As a 100% independent agent, Susan is not controlled by any particular insurance company to steer a person onto any one particular plan. Susan was awarded the #1 Medicare supplement agent in California. Look for Susan's Medicare question and answers every Monday in the Fresno Bee. Call Susan at 559-307-2287 and visit MedicareToday.net.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back, and glad you're joining us on part 2 of Leadership Training in the Home with Dr. Rich Kriegbaum, and he was the former president of Fresno Pacific University on 2 occasions, actually, and comes with a great deal of leadership experience beyond that. And United Way was another area in which he exerted much of his leadership after being the president. So you've been where the action is. I'm sure that'd be a good way of saying that. But, you know, when you look at leadership, Rich, you think in terms of a kickoff. What does it take to kind of get the process started? What's the key event often that says, okay, I need to step up to the plate. I can do it. I need to do it. I will do it. How do you get off the dime, so to speak, and what's the kickoff point? What's the key event that kind of helps bring out the leadership in a person?
Well, I would say that it can happen at any time in life. There are people for whom this doesn't happen till later in life.
Sure, you don't have to be a child to
start. You don't have to be a child.
Yeah.
But usually the first experiences of those kind are happening in childhood, like before puberty, really.
I think so. Yes,
And
yes. I call it the junior high years.
The junior high years.
Yeah.
ages 9 to 12.
Sure.
Not unusual.
That's right.
I asked one time a person who was probably the highest, one of the at least very highest regarded leaders in the whole denomination that I was functioning in at that
I see.
time. And we got to talking about this, and I said, do you know when this happened for you? He says, oh yes, I remember very specifically when that happened, the moment that you're talking about. He said, I was in upper grade school. He said, I would have been about 10, maybe 11 years old, probably about 10. And they were an immigrant family, and the family they were German.
I see.
And the family did not speak English very well, but he had been in school enough that he had really learned English quite well.
Quite well, I see.
And the family faced a problem where someone had to go talk to the city officials on behalf of the family, and none of them could do it.
No, because they couldn't speak.
He, as the 10-year-old, had to walk all that way, find that office, and speak on behalf of his family. The family was supporting him. They had explained to him what had to happen. He said, I came home from that, I was a different person.
Is that right? That was
He
a
said
turn
that
in.
and he said, from then on, I began to believe, I can do this. I can do this. And he turned out to be a very influential leader.
Is that right? That was the beginning of his
And
leadership
he said
experience.
that's when it happened.
Yeah.
It can be any kind of event, but it's an event where you realize, I can do this.
Yes. Yes. You know, I was thinking like a professional vita or your professional resume. You put down on the list of all the things that you have led, all the things you have done. But what about a professional vita of all the experiences that you have had that led you into the position of leadership, that helped you learn to be the leader? What were the events that you had as a child and as a junior high kid, as a high school kid, that emerged into a leadership?
Let me try a concept on you. I think that leadership is learned by taking the risk and sometimes failing.
Oh, often,
right?
Often failing.
If you can't take a risk, you can't lead. There is always a risk in leading. Holding back protects you from being responsible for the risk.
Yes. Yeah, then there's no failure.
And because you can't fail.
That's right.
I mean, you fail in the biggest sense,
Well,
but you
everybody
won't
failed.
fail in the
Yeah,
particular.
that's right.
And that's a big part of what parents encourage their kids to learn how to do. Don't be afraid of failing. Take the risk. Even if you do it wrong, then the parents come along and they say, it's okay, it's okay. It was just a mistake.
Yeah.
Let's
but if
correct
that kid
it.
has a parent that has to be successful in everything,
If the parent...
a kid can't fail because then the kid has less value.
If the parent demeans the child when they fail, makes fun of them when they fail, puts them down because they didn't get it right, they are destroying that child's potential.
That's abuse. That's
it
abuse.
It really is.
Abuse is, really not allowing a kid with potential to experience that potential and develop that potential.
That's right.
To steal that potential.
Exactly right.
That's abuse.
Yes,
I mean, as much as hitting the kid is abuse.
So, in fact, a lot of unhealthy parents have driven the leadership potential out of their children by not encouraging them, by not helping them when they fail, by not helping getting,
failure is really the teacher of leadership.
Isn't that? That's what most
you think
learning
about
is.
You think about a kid coming home from school and having failed something.
Yeah.
Okay, that kid can be punished for that because he didn't study, didn't do his homework, whatever. Or a parent can say, okay, next time let's just do a little bit better. Let's do this and let's do that. So the next time you'll just do a little bit better and we'll build on that. And there is no punishment.
So much of parenting, Allan, I think, is making sure that the child is learning a healthy way of dealing with the consequences of their action.
There you are.
Right?
There you are.
If you
There you are.
refuse
Well
to
said.
be responsible, you don't learn and grow. But if you never take any risks and avoid having to be responsible, you also don't grow.
Not going to grow from that either. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think parents model that, and then they come alongside their child when something goes wrong. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
The research study that always impressed me was back into the early 60s when it was found that girls who achieve, particularly girls, but guys to some degree, but particularly girls who achieve and become successful, had a father that played on the floor with them and said, "You can do it. Let's try this.
Yeah.
You can accomplish this. You can handle it. You can do that." And they played games of skill and development, and the father's role was to encourage, but also help the child, the girl in this case, know that she can do the task that was there to be done. And that is the key issue of women success and achievement. A father that says, "You can do it. Try it. Go for it."
The cross-gender thing is pretty important
there you
because
are.
I remember my mom inviting my brother and me into the kitchen. My brother never took to it quite as much as I did, but into the kitchen and helped us understand the mysteries and miracles that she was working on there and got us involved. And we did some things wrong.
Oh, of course.
Okay, but she taught us so that later in life, we learned that doesn't work just in the kitchen.
Yeah.
That works over here in the shop. That works over here on the playground.
Yeah.
It works.
But you got to get out of that idea that you said you did something wrong. There isn't anything wrong. You do things differently. You don't do it my way. You do it differently. Now, we think of that as being wrong. I think as a parent, we often think, well, that's wrong because it's not my way. But we got to get out of that idea of a child doing something wrong. It's just a child does things differently. And then they can do it a little differently than that. And they can do it a little differently than that. And eventually they come into a successful mode.
I really like the lines that come from famous scientists who, if you're really in science, you make experiments and most of them are going to fail.
Most of them don't come out. Sure.
And the true scientist never looks at those as a loss. They said,
No.
everything that I figure out's not right is something important that I now know.
That's right. Things don't always have to go according to the way you think they should
learn.
go.
You learn from.
That's what science is all about.
And he would say, "I'm one step closer to what I need." I just learned that's
you
not
rule
it.
out things that are not going to be true,
Yes, right.
so that you can get to the things that are true.
Yeah. So you encourage the child. Okay, that didn't work. What else might we try?
Yeah. You know, parents have this idea that you got to do it my way.
Yeah.
And, my way is the proven way, or you have to do it the German way, or you do it the Swedish way,
Yes.
you do it the Jewish way, or whatever. That's not helpful. That's not going to get you anywhere. Because there is no one way to do anything.
It's fine to learn the parent's way, but the parent shouldn't require that that's the only way.
That's the point.
Yes,
that's the point.
That's exactly right.
I mean, parents think that often. My way is the best way because I figured it out. And it might be a good way. It might be workable. But, kids have their own way of coming to truth, coming to a point, coming to accomplishment.
Again, my dad, I think parents do their children a very great favor when they simply invite the child to do things with the parent. Those are great learning environments.
They are.
But there's a little language trick, I think, that's very helpful. The parent can say, "I'm going to show you a way to do this, not the way."
The small word.
It's a way.
Big.
Let me show you a
meaning.
way to do that. So when you're taking your child into that situation where you think your child, with their siblings or whatever, could learn could contribute and could learn to lead, again, maybe Billy knows a way to do what you're trying to do. That doesn't put everybody else down.
That's right.
It just says, here's a way that might work.
Yeah. One of the things that I appreciated with my father is that when he would have conversations with people, they would talk about experiences they're having and problems they're working on and programs they're developing and kind of the leadership kind of conversation that he would have. I would sit there and listen. And I listened to it. And I would often, in many different situations, just hear him make a statement, make a quote of some type that just stuck with me. You know, and it seems to me that leaders kind of learn by listening.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you don't have a listening skill or if you haven't been encouraged to be a listener, it's like kind of here, sit here and listen. Just sit here and listen.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that idea. Now that seems like it's a put off. You know, like you have no value. Don't say anything. I don't want to hear anything, but just listen. But you know, there is an ability there to be learned. The ability to listen. That's an ability. And I think every leader cannot be a leader if he doesn't listen. You got to have a listening skill. And I think that's part of what you learn. And I think it's what parents teach, is how to listen and what to listen for, and then how to take that and work it.
It makes me think of an experience I had in the second presidency. I had a very competent, rising administrator.
Mm-hmm.
And that person signed up for and got accepted into a leadership development program. You and I know there are endless leadership development
many
programs.
of them, that's right.
But this one was a carefully developed plan in which the person did exactly what you just said. Their job to learn leadership was to get permission. They had to get my permission as president to do it. To sit in meetings and listen and watch and learn how and observe how people were solving problems and who was dominating and who was mistaken and wouldn't give up.
There you are.
And then they had to write that up.
That's right. That's right.
And that was how, and they went through dozens of meetings like that.
Yeah. I
So
like the
yes,
idea.
you
I like the idea.
learn. You learn by listening
it's a
and
style,
watching.
It's a teaching style.
Yeah.
But every parent can do that.
Yeah.
I mean, encourage your kids to sit at the table when you talk. Encourage your kids to be around you when you talk. Encourage your kids to be aware and listen. You can have a conversation with them about that later.
Sure.
You know, you can say, okay, what did you hear? Or what do you think about that? Or I'd be interested in your point of view. I'd be interested in what you would have said had you commented. You can do that later. But you use that listening situation as a teaching opportunity. But you have to teach your kids to listen. And they have to be where the action is to listen.
If you have a husband and wife, it is sometimes there are conversations that they have to just have alone. But there's huge advantage whenever they can explore their differences and resolve those with the kids able to watch and learn how you do that.
I've often said that kids always watch parents start a fight, but they never watch how a parent ends a fight.
Oh,
and finishes a fight and
Good
resolves
point.
it and settles it.
Yeah.
Because they're gone away. You know, you're separated there.
Yeah.
But I think it's that idea of listening. You have to learn how to start a fight, if you will.
Yeah.
But you have to really learn how to settle it.
Yes.
Resolve it.
Yes.
And if you're not watching, if you're not listening, you don't know that. And if parents don't come back and say, okay, here's how we resolve this thing, or here's what we did.
That's right.
That's the teaching moment. Say, what about passion? Leaders are often known as having tremendous passion for their ideas.
Yes.
You know, for their program, for the scope of their program, or for what they'd like to accomplish. Sometimes that passion is very self-centered. They just really want to advance themselves. Okay, I'm not talking about that. But a leader that has an idea, that has value, and really believes in it, requires passion. There can be too little passion, which means you really don't care if it happens or not, or you have excessive passion. You've got to have this. You've got to make this go. You know, I mean, there's no opportunity other than that. And then obviously there's a midpoint of passion, where passion has a place.
You don't need leadership to stay where you are and keep doing what you're doing now.
Okay.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
I take that as a given principle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need leadership for change. You need leadership to go to a new place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You need leadership to become a new organization
There you
or
are.
a new family
That's
or a
right.
new kind of person.
Yep.
You don't need leadership to stay where you are.
No. But it takes a little passion.
And that passion
Mm-hmm.
is for that new future.
The goal,
that
or
different condition in the
Mhm,
future.
mhm.
I use the expression desired condition. What is the condition that we want to exist that doesn't exist now?
Yeah.
And can we all get there together?
Yeah, that's right.
Leaders are often admonished, move as fast as you can without leaving somebody behind.
But you know, you can have an excessive amount of passion. You
Yes.
can care for something so strongly
Yes.
and become almost
Obsessed.
well, obsessed by it.
Yeah.
And then it becomes you.
Yes.
And nothing else you can talk about, nothing
Yeah.
else you can do. I mean, that is your obsession in life. And, you know, people walk away from that. People don't want to join in on that kind of leadership.
You know, I mentioned earlier, when a follower is deciding whom to follow, that is,
Yes,
who will be
yes,
a leader.
yes.
Competence is important. The person's character is important.
Yes.
But the person's conviction or commitment to it is also important, because there's a huge amount of research about resistance to change. At the individual level,
right.
you've dealt with that a
And
lot.
community level, that's right.
At the community
Yeah.
level, at the family level, there is resistance to change, and leaders have to have the conviction, the passion, the determination that we
push through
can do this. We've
push through
got
it.
to get
To
there.
push through it and not just give up.
Right. Not
which is easy.
Not quit.
Which is easy to
And
do.
followers should be attracted to
Yeah.
that if you have the other characteristics.
There you are. Say, we've been talking on leadership development in the home, and Dr. Rich Kriegbaum is former president of Fresno Pacific University and had many, many, many other responsibilities of leadership over the years, and wrote this book, Leadership Prayer. So if you are in a position of leadership, here's the book for you. If you have kids that you're trying to teach leadership skills to, and you're in the process of doing that, it's a little book that might be good for you as a family to look through and share with your kids. But let me give you a quote, and I want you to comment about this and tell me what you think it means, okay? People have a way of becoming what you encourage them to be, not what you nag them to be. What does that strike you as?
Great wisdom, which doesn't really need a whole lot of elaboration.
Yeah, we want to encourage kids, don't we? We want to
Yeah.
encourage them. You can do it. You can handle it.
That's right.
You're capable.
Absolutely right.
Not do this, do that, do this, do that, do this. That's nagging. Yeah.
Good delegation. That, I think you're talking in a sense about what really good delegation is. And good delegation is coming to a clear agreement with someone about what is supposed to happen, and then let that person take responsibility
Take it
for
over,
doing
yeah.
it. And then you become the encourager. If you'll do this, what can I do to help you succeed?
I think every leader, has had an encourager in their life.
Oh, yes.
From the very beginning, first step of leadership, until the end of their leadership. There's always people in their life that come in and encourage, but you need those people to encourage you, to say, you're doing well, you're doing good, I support you on this, here's an area where you might want to do something a little differently, and be a mentor and a guide and an encourager. Every leader needs that. You needed that when you were president of the university.
But I might stick in one other little word. It's easy for us to forget that there is such a thing as really bad, evil leadership.
Unfortunately.
Unfortunately, there
Yes,
is.
unfortunately.
Leadership is not inherently
all good,
noble, and not inherently all good.
Yeah.
I think you just nailed one of the reasons that people become bad leaders. They were not encouraged. They were not allowed to learn leadership in a healthy way, and they took leadership by force.
Okay.
And you become a really bad leader when that's all you know how to do.
It's a sad note to end on.
It's a sad note, but it's a good
true
reminder
note, but it's a
that if
true
we do
note.
this right, Alan, the
Yeah.
potential is unlimited.
Is unlimited. And we're all sitting in situations where we can begin that process, or we can contribute to that process.
Yes,
we can.
exactly.
Hey, thanks for joining us today on Dr. Teach Me to Parent. And get a hold of my book, if you will, Dr. Teach Me to Parent from Amazon. And in that book, there is a chapter on helping kids become leaders in the home. And you can learn as a parent some of the leadership skills and traits that you want to teach your kids. So I bring that to your attention. Welcome you to pick it up on Amazon. Anyway, see you next week, and bye for now.